Welcome to today's episode of Healing, Hope, and Health, proudly brought to you by Hospice of Washington County. I'm Bernadette Wagner, the organization's Community Outreach Coordinator, and today it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Pam McMullen. Pam will shed light on the palliative care practice recently initiated by Hospice of Washington County. She comes to hospice with a strong academic background and tremendous medical experience. She received her bachelor's and her master's in family nurse practitioner from Shenandoah University and has more than 25 years of critical care experience. She's worked at Frederick Memorial Hospital, the Veterans Administration in Martinsburg, Robinwood Surgical Center, and Meredith Urgent Care. Welcome, Pam. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you can make it today. So you've had this tremendous career and you've worked in a variety of settings. Why did you choose at this time to come to work for Hospice of Washington County?
Well, I had started my nurse practitioner practice in internal medicine, and that didn't work out exactly how I wanted it to. So I ended up working at another practice that was pain management, and I have a strong background in pain management. And I felt really comfortable. I felt like I could give the patients a lot. The practice kind of closed, and I was looking for another job. And this hospice job was available, so I interviewed. And I really felt like when I interviewed, I fit in with what the philosophies of hospice were and what my job would entail. So I decided to take the position because I felt like I could help a lot of people.
That's great. And not only the mission of hospice, you were very comfortable with that, but also you are working in the palliative care practice, which is a new addition to the services provided to by Hospice of Washington County. Can you talk a little bit about what palliative care is?
Sure. Palliative care is when a patient is diagnosed with a disease that's not life-limiting necessarily, but it's a very difficult disease to treat and take care of. And we see the patients when they need symptom management and pain management. And say, for instance, it's not always cancer patients, but this is a good example. A cancer patient would still be seeking an aggressive treatment. We see them in the palliative care versus the hospice setting. Because the palliative care is when, we can treat, we can do aggressive therapy ourselves. Yeah, we do pain management, we do a lot of nausea and vomiting, we do nutritional. Also too, what I really love about the palliative care part of it is we have access to the chaplains, and we have access to the social workers, and we have access to any of the counseling. So I always incorporate that into every visit with the patient and offer them those things. Some patients, have taken some things, and other times they feel like they have support.
So you would describe palliative care maybe as a bridge between traditional medical practice where people go to their own physicians and hospice care when they are no longer seeking treatment. And so this is an opportunity where they can continue to seek that aggressive treatment, but also get the support that was provided by hospice. That's great. That's great. And what's your role as a nurse practitioner? I know you work closely with Dr. Baker in the palliative care practice. What is your role there?
In the palliative care, I see the patients actually. They're scheduled, and I see them, and I spend at least an hour with them, and then I treat their symptoms, and do all the care that they need, and then try to get them any supportive care they need. Then, I have them come back for the follow-up appointments and everything. In hospice, I see all of the patients, and I follow them closely. I take care of a lot of the pain management for the practice. And I'm on call a lot, and I just follow up the nursing staff. We have 20, 30 nurses. They all call me all day long, and I talk to them and help them with patients all the time and go see patients.
So there's 4 different teams within the hospice of nurses and social workers and chaplains and CNAs. Do you work with each of the 4 teams?
Yes, I work with everyone.
Okay.
I don't know everyone yet because I don't get to see all the CNAs, but I'm meeting them out in the field when I go to different places.
So you become the part of each of the teams?
Yes.
So that's a tremendous role. So what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, you kind of heard some of it, but a typical day is
so
just
there's a lot of variety, though?
Variety and all over the place. Palliative care, pain management, symptom management, helping a family, helping whatever's needed, I do.
Okay.
If a family needs somebody to talk to and they don't know what to do anymore, I'll pick up the phone and talk to them or go visit them to try to help them. You know, so it's just basically whatever's needed.
So a big part of your job is not only being present to the patients, but being present to your team members as well.
And families.
And the families.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
Great. That's great. I know that you get to know the patients and their family members pretty intimately. Do you have a favorite story that's meaningful to you that you go back to when you're having a tough day that you recall in order to lift your spirits and to be able to continue to provide that care?
I have my first patient when I came into hospice. He was a cancer patient and he was very close to my age. And I still could cry. But anyway, he has passed since then, and you know, he had tremendous pain. So we went through every pain medicine under the sun, gave him more pain medicine than I've ever given, finally got him comfortable with a PIC and morphine line, and I was very close to his wife, and you know, I went over there on a regular basis. I got to see how the social workers were there. They came. My nurses were there, the chaplain were there, so the opportunity to help him really gave me the opportunity to see how wonderful hospice is.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story, and I hope that that does give you a little bit of peace every day when you're doing your job. I'd like to thank Pam for explaining palliative care medicine and the role nurse practitioners play. It's important to know that this specialized medical care focuses on relieving the symptoms and stress of serious illness and strives to improve the quality of life for both the patient and the family. If you would like more information about palliative care or other services provided by Hospice of Washington County, call 301-791-6360. There's always someone there to help. Stay tuned. I'll be right back after this short commercial break.
I'm the hometown favorite.
I'll outsmart you.
I will beat you.
I'll be surrounded by fans cheering me on.
There's no place like home for fighting cancer.
My turf.
My time.
My team.
Expert care, close to home. The John R. Marsh Cancer Center at Meritus Health.
I've been working with Linda McCullum now for 20 years. The people in the office are very knowledgeable of what they do, and they're also very caring and customer-oriented. My little granddaughter, when she says, "Pappy, I love you," that's just so precious. If I wouldn't have had the hearing aid on, I wouldn't have heard it.
Let McCollum Hearing Center help you rediscover the sounds of your life.
Hi, I am Dr. Olenzak at the Pain and Spine Institute. I specialize in the most advanced procedures and technology available in pain management. At your visits and procedures, you will always see me for continuity of care. I would like to thank all of my patients for allowing me to provide you with the specialized care that you need. To give you this level of care requires a team. This is your team at the Pain and Spine Institute. To become a patient, call 301-739-7900 or go to painfree-md.com.
Welcome back. It's my pleasure again to welcome Lindsay Anderson to Healing Hope and Health. Lindsay has served as the Director of Volunteer Services for Hospice of Washington County for the past 8 years. In that capacity, she recruits and trains volunteers to work in a variety of roles, from patient companions to office support to special event staffers. She joins us today to tell us about a special volunteer opportunity called 11th Hour Volunteers. Thanks for taking time from your busy day to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about this 11th Hour program and what are the goals of the program?
Sure. Our 11th Hour program we started in 2007, a little bit before I started working at Hospice of Washington County. And the program provides a bedside vigil, so extra support to patients and families when we feel like the patient is probably in their last day or two of their life.
Okay.
And the goal of the program is either so that the patient is not dying alone if they don't have any family or friends to be with them, at that time, or it's to provide extra support to the family during that time.
I imagine that's really crucial and greatly appreciated.
It is, yes.
So what is the role of the 11th hour volunteer in that setting?
Sure, they go and sit by the bedside of the patient. Usually we set up volunteers to go in shifts back to back until the patient dies. So each volunteer is going for 3 or 4 hours. And if there aren't any family members there, they're providing a gentle, quiet presence with the patient, holding their hand, talking quietly to them, letting them know that they're not alone. And if the family is present, the role of the volunteer is to provide emotional support to the family. Sometimes they are very scared, anxious, overwhelmed, not sure really what to expect at this time. And so the volunteer can provide emotional support, normalize what's going on for them. Sometimes just being there to let the family share stories of the patient's life. So. That they can have that experience of telling about their loved one.
That's terrific. And how many 11th hour volunteers do you currently have, and how many do you hope to have?
Well, we have probably about 35 of our volunteers are a part of that program right now. And we're looking to increase the number of 11th hour volunteers so that we can better support the patients and families. But one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is to find individuals who might be willing to provide that 11th hour bedside vigil during the overnight hours, so in the middle of the night. We have just probably 1 or 2 volunteers right now that are able to do that and willing to do that. And in order really to be successful with being able to provide coverage during those hours, we probably need to have about 10 to 20 additional people who are willing to do that.
Yeah, what a gift it is that if a volunteer can do that, because nobody should have to die alone, and to have somebody be with them, it would be a tremendous gift of their time and also support to the patient.
It's what is really needed, because what we see in hospice is that many of our patients actually die in the middle of the night. And that's usually the time that the family might want to go home and sleep. So it would be wonderful if we had more volunteers who would be able to provide support during that time.
And so what is involved? Is it a 3 or 4 hour commitment in the middle of the night, or are you asking somebody to go there for the whole night?
What we're expecting is that the person would commit to doing about 4 hours in the middle of the night. So either midnight to 4 a.m. or 4 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is involved? What is the training involved for 11th hour volunteers?
It's similar to any of our volunteers that go out and visit with patients and families. They would have to complete an application and come in to meet with me for an interview. And then they have to go through our companion volunteer training, which we offer on a quarterly basis, and we also have in a self-study training format. And then there's an additional training that's only about an hour long that they would find out a little bit more about the 11th hour program, the expectations, what they will see when they're visiting with patients who are actively dying, that type of thing.
So Lindsay, do you have some volunteer training scheduled?
I do, yeah. We have a training coming up in April. It's April 18th, 21st, and 27th from 5 to 9 p.m.
Okay, and we just have a little bit of time, but you have so intimately involved with the volunteer experiences at hospice. Is there one way that you would want to volunteer if you could, one thing that's particularly meaningful to you? Actually,
the 11th hour program probably would be what I would want to do, that or providing a break for family members, which is what some of our volunteers do. But I actually often say that one day when I am no longer working, that I want to be a hospice volunteer, because one of the things that I have to do in my job is to go out and do supervisory visits with the volunteers, and it's the favorite part of my job. I really enjoy going out and visiting with patients and families. It's really rewarding, and so I can definitely say that being a Hospice of Washington County volunteer is an amazing experience.
That's great. Well, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to Lindsay for joining us today, and grateful to all the 11th hour volunteers. On the website Thoughtful Stroll, one 11th hour volunteer wrote, "If I can provide a soft smile, a gentle hand, a kind smile, or just the simplicity of my presence, I feel called to do so. What a gift that is." End of quote. If you have that special gift of being present to another, I encourage you to give Lindsay a call at 301-791-6360. We'll be right back after this short commercial.
People don't realize it takes a lot to care for a family member in your home. John's dad was very headstrong, so I think that was a lot for him to get over and try to come to terms with that he had terminal illness. I would recommend everybody to get hospice involved at the get-go. When you first learn about it, get it set up. It's going to make it, I mean, it's terrible what you're going through already, but it's going to make it easier for you in the long run because we couldn't have done it without them.
Call Hospice today. Hospice of Washington County, when time matters most.
From the smallest item of jewelry to the largest ceramic elephant, every 10,000 Villages handcrafted product makes a remarkable journey.
All over the world, our products travel similar paths, over thousands of miles and years of artistic tradition. Our handcrafted gifts represent work that builds villages and sustains souls. They are the dream of a better life made real. Every product is a miracle.
Hi there. I'm glad you're still with us. Our next guests, Karen Miller and Debbie Fling, are passionate advocates, mothers who love their children unconditionally, and community members determined to make a difference. Recently, at Hospice of Washington County's Hancock Community Life Center, Debbie and Karen spoke about Save Our Children, a support group dedicated to assisting families living with addiction. Karen and Debbie join us today with the hope of further spreading this important message, that families living with addiction can find hope and support by sharing their stories with each other who understand. Together, it is possible to combat addiction. Welcome, thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So you came and spoke out in Hancock last week, and I was wondering, you advertised it as a no-shame zone. So can you tell me what that means and why you put that on your flyer?
The no-shame zone is because of the stigma that is attached whenever you're talking about addiction. So we have, in our support groups, we have named it the no-shame zone. You can come in, speak about anything you need to, and it doesn't leave those doors.
And the idea is that if there's no shame attached to it, more people are willing to come forward and to seek that support.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea. So you both lead Save Our Children support groups. Karen, where is your group?
My group is in Frederick at 511 West South Street. It's at the Crossroads Center, which is actually an outpatient facility, and they've offered us a room, and we've been there for over 2 years.
And what day and what time do you meet?
Tuesday at 7:30 to 8:30.
That's great. And how many members do you have?
Approximately 10 to 12 every week. Periodically we'll get a few or a few less.
That's great. And Debbie, where is your support group that you host?
We started our support group in Boonesboro. We're going on our 8th week, and it's at 64 South Main Street. We're holding it in the Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church. We have it in the parish house, and it's on Wednesday evenings from 7 p.m. until we wrap up usually about 8:30.
Okay, that's great. And I know one of your goals when you spoke at Hancock, you shared information and talked about treatment options and preventive strategies and the heroin epidemic in general. But you were hoping to empower and encourage the residents there to start Hancock Save Our Children. Was your goal realized?
Absolutely. We were very happy to have Jody Finney step up and offer to volunteer to facilitate our group in Hancock, and that will be held at 126 West High Street at the Community Living Center.
Yeah, and that is going to be on the second floor there. What day and what time will that be?
That's going to be Tuesday from 7 to 8:30.
Okay, and the first meeting is going to be March 29th, is that correct?
29th, yes.
Okay, that's great. And I know the community is looking forward to that group starting there, and they kind of owe it to your presentation, so I really appreciate that. We have just a little bit of time. I was going to ask each of you to, in your vast knowledge, if there's one thing that you want to communicate with our audience that you think is the most important thing to know about the heroin epidemic.
The heroin epidemic is nationwide, and the rural communities really have a difficult time because of lack of services and resources. So we encourage everybody to step forward and we encourage everybody to step forward in the communities to support one another. And that's why these groups are so important because, as Debbie mentioned, it's a no-shame zone. There's no judgment. We totally understand what you've been through. Debbie and I have both been through family members with addiction. I have two family members who are currently in recovery. And so we're there to support whatever you need.
That's great. Great. How about you?
And again, as I mentioned earlier, to help with the stigma, you know, we need people to understand what addiction is, that it is a disease of the brain, and together in the community we have to work, you know, so that we can recognize, identify, and help those so that they can become community members that are you know, producing and active again.
That's great. And real quickly, I know that you started an advocacy group. We have just a little bit of time. Can you mention that?
Debbie and I are both co-founders of Maryland Heroin Awareness Advocates. We're a nonprofit statewide organization. We offer treatment services, bereavement service support, and we just help out in the community. We have all kinds of...
And you also do some legislative advocacy work, correct?
Yes, we do.
That's great.
Yes, we do. We testify in Annapolis.
Well, I'm so grateful for you being here today and sharing this important message with our community.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Karen and Debbie for being here today and for the important work they are doing. It is impossible to fight against what we don't understand and what we can't see. That is why what Debbie and Karen are doing is so important. By shedding light on the heroin epidemic, they make visible the problem. By offering support, they make possible a sense of peace and hope. If someone you know is living with addiction, you're not alone. Contact Save Our Children by calling 301-471-1830 or 301-514-7373, or please attend one of the meetings in Frederick, Boonesboro, or Hancock. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short message.
Arbors Carson Jewelers has been your community jeweler for over 110 years. We have the region's largest selection of diamonds, designer jewelry, including bridal, gold, and silver fashion jewelry, and fine Swiss timepieces. We strive to combine quality, expert personal attention, and affordable financing to create an exceptional shopping experience aimed at exceeding your expectations. At Carson's Jewelers, there's something for everyone that will bring a smile to that someone special in your life.
I'm the hometown favorite.
I'll outsmart you.
I will beat you.
I'll be surrounded by fans cheering me on.
There's no place like home for fighting cancer.
My turf.
My time.
My team.
Expert care, close to home. The John R. Marsh Cancer Center at Meritus Health. From the smallest item of jewelry to the largest ceramic elephant, every 10,000 villages handcrafted product makes a remarkable journey.
All over the world, our products travel similar paths, over thousands of miles and years of artistic tradition. Our handcrafted gifts represent work that builds villages and sustains souls. They are the dream of a better life made real. Every product is a miracle.
People don't realize it takes a lot to care for a family member in your home. John's dad was very headstrong, so I think that was a lot for him to get over and try to come to terms with that he had terminal illness. I would recommend everybody to get hospice involved at the get-go. When you first learn about it, get it set up, it's going to make it, I mean, it's terrible what you're going through already, but it's going to make it easier for you in the long run because we couldn't have done it without them.
Call hospice today. Hospice of Washington County, when time matters most.
Welcome back to Healing, Hope, and Help. It is now my pleasure to introduce Carolyn Jackson, who joins us today to talk about her experience with Hospice of Washington County and the excellent care her husband Charlie received from all those who cared for him. Carolyn and her husband Charlie, who met in Washington, D.C., were married just 4 months shy of 50 years. They had a wonderful life together and enjoyed each other's company, as well as traveling by motorcycle to visit Yellowstone National Park and friends. Welcome, Carolyn. Thanks for being a part of today's show.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
I'm so glad you could be here.
Mm-hmm.
So you said it to me prior to the show that it was extremely important to you once your husband became ill to keep him at home. Can you tell us how Hospice of Washington County helped you do that?
Well, almost in every way. All the material things, just think about all those things, just the bed and everything like that that you need. They were there promptly. I mean, all of that was supplied. But I got to thinking about that question and I thought, you know what, I really think they were right there. I was by myself, okay? Mm-hmm. I knew that I was on my own. I have siblings and people that be there for me, but still I was on my own. So I just felt like that they were right there. That was such a support just to know that they were going to be there. I was going to have what I needed to make decisions and be able to do it. So to me, that is almost as important as having the material things.
Right, so you had the equipment, but then you had the emotional support too.
Yeah.
So Carolyn, you had a nurse, you had a CNA, you had chaplains, social workers.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about how they supported you and a little bit about your relationship with them?
Right. Well, every one of them supported me, everyone. Rhonda, my nurse, okay, from the moment she came in, I was able to ask her any type of medical question. I wanted to get my husband off of all his meds and things like that. And just silly little things that you think as a person that are silly, but yet to a nurse, oh, Carolyn, this way, you do it this way or that way. So
she took the time to educate you.
Oh, she was so good. She really was. Then Deb, my social worker, a listening ear. Deb has the best listening ear in the world. You know, sometimes you just want to talk. And you talk and you talk. You really are not talking about anything important, maybe your life, how you grew up, but Deb always had a listening ear and she always came. She was so faithful. Susan, my volunteer, came right in and had a rapport with my husband that I couldn't believe. I could go out, go grocery shopping, get things done, and know that he was being taken care of and everything was all right. That was just so special. But the very special person is Katie. Katie, his caregiver.
She was the CNA there?
Yep, I can't tell you. To me, she's an angel because she had a rapport with Charlie. For Charlie to allow her to wash him, bathe him, I was just so amazed at the laughter that I'd hear if I'd walk out of the room and she'd be in there. And then again, Katie, a listening ear. Just from the moment she'd walk through the door, if I needed to talk, she could see I needed to talk, and she would just be there. The chaplain would call me occasionally. I have a great faith in the Lord, okay? So my rock is the Lord, okay? So I just felt like that wasn't as important as all the other needs for me. But he did call me, check with me, and if I needed to call him, I was there. So
that's great.
They're all angels. I think they just don't get all the support they need.
That's great. Well, I'm so glad that they were there for you. Let me ask you, did you, after Charlie's passing, did you take advantage of the bereavement services that were offered by hospice?
That's about one thing I haven't yet. I feel like that can be down the road for me. I feel like right now that, like I told you, I have such a firm faith and belief in the Lord that
that's not something you're needing right now?
That's not something I feel like, in my life right now.
But you know that if they're there, that if you need them, they're there.
And they've called me and let me know that for sure.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm so glad that you had this experience. And how long did your husband have hospice care?
15 months. I understand one of the longest for Katie, who was his, the caregiver. She said it was the longest patient she'd ever, so Charlie was in the program for 15 months. Right.
And so I'm sure in that course of time you really got to know them well and they got to know you.
Like family.
That's
like
great.
Family.
That's
yeah,
great.
Right.
Well, Carolyn, I'm so grateful for you to take the time to come here today and share
you're welcome.
your story.
You're welcome. I just want to support hospice all I can. Whatever I can do, I'd be more than glad to do.
Okay. I'd like to thank Carolyn for sharing her thoughts about the care and support she and her husband received from Hospice of Washington County during the last year and a half of his life. Knowing that they have provided passionate medical care, support, comfort, and peace of mind to patients and family is incredibly rewarding to hospice's staff. It is that which makes their work meaningful. In his book, The 4 Things That Matter Most, Dr. Ira Byrock says that people can find happiness in life and peace in death if they have the chance to say the 4 important things, which are, I love you, thank you, forgive me, and I forgive you. I believe Hospice of Washington County's greatest service is to provide that time and space and environment in which patients and families can get to say these things to each other. I'm so glad you were able to join us today. We'll see you next time.